Hello, product people. Welcome to the Product for Product podcast, hosted by Matt Green, data advocate and product manager, and Moshe Mikanovsky, product leader and author. Our goal is to serve the product community by helping you find products that can help make your work in product management easier. Thanks for joining us on another episode of the Product for Product podcast.
Welcome back, everyone. On today's episode, Moshe and I are excited to speak with fellow podcaster and thought leader Sani Manić, host of the No Hacks podcast and co-founder of the AI Fluency Club, about key things to consider when using large language models, or LLMs. So let's dive in. Welcome to the show, Sani.
Thank you for that wonderful introduction and pleasure to be on the show.
It's a pleasure to have you. Hey, Moshe.
Hey, Matt. Hey, Sani. Welcome. You are joining us from Portugal, I believe.
I'm currently in Porto, in Portugal. Yes.
Porto in Portugal, which I'm recently seeing a lot of maybe I have a lot of connections over there, but I see a few here and there post on LinkedIn about a growing community over there in product and then growing community over there in general in AI, etc.
It's happening. Yeah. Also, we had an event 2 weeks ago at the time of this recording, Future of Experimentation, which was an invite-only, an experimental kind of event here with 24 people from all over Europe. It was amazing. It was really, really good. Yeah.
Very nice. Very nice. And we have you today as part of our series on AI tools that product managers should or might use in their process to help us. Now, your main expertise these days is in experimentation, but you also dabbed into product management, I believe, right?
A little bit with some light SaaS products. I'm not as advanced as you guys. I would never say I'm a product manager, product person, nothing like that. But everyone is kind of everything these days with more or less success. So in that sense, maybe I don't know. Yeah,
100%.
What I would describe myself as is an AI skeptic or anti-AI hype person, and I need to say that every single time I talk about AI, because you can't just keep talking about AI all the time without sounding like you're hyping everything. I love the technology. I don't like what big tech is doing with the technology. I can put it that way.
So it's really interesting because throughout the show, Matt and I should say, we have this kind of like, I'm more on the anti-AI and he's into the pro-AI and stuff like that camps. And what I think with you is, I'm not saying that you are in my camp because you do try a lot of AI tools and you're not afraid to try it and you're actually talking a lot about it and stuff like that. Not that I'm afraid to try it myself. I'm trying things myself as well. But my skepticism is actually holding me back, I think. And with you're somewhere between us, I believe.
Probably yes. I'm probably more skeptical than an average person when it comes to AI, because everything those startups and even the big AI companies tell you is self-reported. It's them talking about their product, how great it is, how amazing it is, how it's going to. It was supposed to solve the energy crisis. It was supposed to cure cancer. Now we have an erotica sex chat in ChatGPT. So I think the priorities have shifted, or at least they have finally been honest about what they're trying to do, and that's get as many users as possible.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm very skeptical about what they're doing.
Our audience didn't see me rolling my eyes when you mentioned erotica.
Yeah, that was the latest news from OpenAI these days. So we see that a lot in product management as well. Like I know something Moshe and I can agree on is this role of AI product managers. That's not a new thing, and like to say like AI product managers, you see a lot of hype in that space in our industry. So, and that comes, I think, a lot from these big tech companies that may have those roles carved out. At the end of the day, David Perea, he's another thought leader in product. He mentioned it's still product management with you can learn AI. And I think that's probably the spirit of like what we're going to do during this series. Like we're going to learn, like, and that's the way I approach it. I'm a product manager that knows AI. But my foundation is.
Yeah. Interesting enough, I was a product manager before ChatGPT was a thing, AI product manager. And and I struggled a lot because before that, before the hype, there was not too many of us. So it was hard for me to find someone to actually learn from. Or there was a lot of us, but we're just, the hype wasn't there. So no one knew that we were there. Anyway, let's put that aside and let's start diving into our topic for today. Matt, you have used LLMs. You can share with us also, your experience, with different LLMs to do research and I know a lot of product managers are doing that, learning. Many of them are writing their BRDs, PRDs, which is something I don't really like. I don't like PRDs, but still people are doing those user stories, etc. But we need really to understand and dive a little deeper where does it work, where it doesn't work, what do we still need to be careful about these days, even after 2 3 years that they're out there.
I'll just say that there are many ways to categorize how you use an LLM, but the one way I like to look at it is you either use it to understand something or to avoid having to understand something. And I think this is at the core of what we're going to talk about today, because using an LLM to understand what your work is and how so you can do it better is thumbs up. Go ahead and do it all day, every day. Using an LLM to bypass the having to understand what you're supposed to do, to me, is extremely problematic, and it's not even as bad as it's going to be if people keep doing that.
That's a
Right.
very interesting way to put it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so I use it on a daily basis, but I always go back to that, like, context is key. Like, you know the business better than AI. You know the people, the culture. You know that you should know the market and your application better than AI. So, you have to keep that in mind when you're working alongside one. So I always go back to, like, partnership. AI is a partner in helping you understand and develop strategy. It can create documents for you, but at the end of the day, you need to check those documents and make sure, like, it's outputting what you want. Yeah, it can write up a PRD. It can do briefs and one pagers and stuff like that for you. But just make sure that you have the context and you're ultimately the authority. AI is just providing information, formatting things for you. And I think that's, like, where it can help deliver the most value initially for PMs on a day-to-day basis.
So if the world knew that, the thing you just said, would valuation of AI companies go up or down?
Down.
That's
Yep.
why most people don't think that way. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
Well, tell us more about your take on that, Sani. I'm really
So
curious, to
right, my
hear, and then later on, I want also to hear about, your favorite go-to tools for that.
absolutely. So my take on that, what Matt said, context, 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 context. You can't just go to an LLM and say, "How should I do this?" Or do that, but then open five separate tabs and ask the same question, and you'll get different results. Not just differently formatted paragraphs. It's going to be different things you need to do, or different
Hmm.
contents of the document it gives you. So please don't trust without verifying. That's number one. You can never, ever, ever trust an LLM because it's a hallucination engine. That's what it's built to do. If you don't give it good enough context, there's absolutely no way it's going to give you good enough results. Also, you need to break down the task into smaller, easy to manage tasks, and have it solve that. You can't just say, back to vibe coding tools. You can't just say, build me this. You need to know exactly what every step of the build should be, or what every step of researching for a document should be before you can ask an LLM and expect good results out of it. So I think this is the biggest takeaway for me from my usage of extensive usage of LLM to build things. When I was building PodPacer last year, the initial trial for that project was I gave ChatGPT 10 transcripts of my podcast, and I said, or other podcasts, and I said, can you prepare an interview with this guest based on the 10 transcripts? And it will start to hallucinate, mix up make things up. It was all kinds of chaos. That was 4.0. That was, well, 5 is worse, objectively, I guess.
Hmm.
But when I gave it one short transcript and started asking questions based on one short transcript, what can you tell me about this episode? It was not perfect, but it was more accurate. So you need to give it small pieces of information and have a very direct task, not just, hey, I want you to do something that would take 2 weeks for a human to do. No, do something that would take an hour, but please help me do that in 5 minutes or 3 minutes or whatever it is. So don't overwhelm it because it will start to hallucinate. There's no way it doesn't hallucinate in that scenario.
Mm.
Yeah,
So
totally.
what I'm always wondering about that is how things have progressed over time.
Mhm.
So my bad experience, and I might have mentioned it in on the pod before, when ChatGPT came out, and the first time I tried it, I basically just asked it questions about product management because I knew this is something I know about, and I want to see, what the answers is going to give me. Are they going to give me things that someone that doesn't have this information will be able to learn from that, or it's going to misdirect them in different directions that they shouldn't really go? And it was really bad. And I remember I showed it to Matt, and Matt tried it on his end, and he got also different answers. But there were a lot of similarities between them, but they were still different. And then I was like, I can't trust this tool. If I don't trust it for things I know, how can I trust it for things I don't know, right? And I kind of like let it sit there for a year or a year and a half, didn't use it at all, like everyone else. And then I tried it again with the same questions, and it didn't do much better. And I was like, if it didn't improve over time, like after a year and a half, then I don't know if how can I trust it that it changes or that it actually learns? And I've heard places people are saying actually that it becomes even worse because of the bad feedback it's getting from people or bad data that is added in the internet based on other AI models that are adding a lot of garbage out there.
Yep.
So coming back to what you just said, do you test it on these things over time? Like, you got to that conclusion that it's not good to ask it a big question, you have to ask small
Mhm.
question and give it a lot of context. But do you think over time it will change, or this will still should be the mode of operation?
It depends on what you're asking it. So if you're asking it something that is common knowledge, that's really, you can find it on Wikipedia, it will give you a correct answer. But Google can do that, Wikipedia can do that. So what's the point? If you're asking something about a specific AI-based product for dog walkers, it doesn't know what the right thing to do is for that specific product. To use a very niche example that I'm sure it doesn't have in its knowledge because it wasn't trained on such products. There's just no way it was. It's going to either hallucinate or tell you something that applies to a generic product or some generic rules that should be best practices that work for everyone, but maybe they don't. So unless you know the what you're asking it was it's in its data set when it was trained, don't assume it knows and assume it will hallucinate. That is the way I approach. But also, even if it's common data, fact check everything every LLM gives you, unless it's something very casual that you're just doing for fun.
Yep. And something I personally do is if I have a long thread, I'll in like Claude and some of these other models, because I use a bunch of different models to accomplish different tasks. I have like memory usage, and so it remembers conversations I have. Going back to the context is key. And then I have a long running dialogue. And so I'll do bits of pieces like, hey, improve this, improve that. And the whole time I'm moving along, I'm giving it more information. And by the time I'm down towards the bottom, it has a lot of context to make critical decisions that I needed to do. So they do offer a lot of deep research as well. So that is one area that you can really dive into, deep research, just from the surface. The building blocks really help.
Absolutely. And deep research is amazing, but what it really is, it finds 50, 100 articles that Google would find, and then it just
Hmm.
analyzes them. Just faster way to do what you could do with Google. Let's just be
Right.
honest about what
Yep.
deep. It's not AGI or something like that, or anything
Right.
even pretending to be AGI. It's great. It saves time.
Yep.
But yeah, deep research is amazing. Usually, I when I have a big project, I start with a deep research prompt, and then
Hmm.
when it has all that, my go-to is Gemini because I'm just on Google. It integrates with everything I do.
Hmm.
It gives me a long document based on the deep research it did, and that's the starting point. That's the context for the conversation, and then I give it more data that I have that they didn't find online, and then you have a better starting point for whatever you're trying to do. Yeah.
For sure. Yeah, I've started using Notebook LM as a personal researcher partner, and like you could give it up to 50 different resources, and so it uses a Gemini model, and then you give it up to 50 different YouTube text websites and stuff like that, and basically you can tailor it to what you want, and then it'll output some great material that'll really help educate people. So, yeah, I think Gemini and Google is a great model.
I think they're catching up.
Yeah, I
They're
think they really are
definitely.
for sure.
Um, yeah, I think that Gemini or Google, they did a really smart thing by infusing it into Google search. So you don't have to go somewhere else for people that, like me, still using Google to search things.
Yep.
And then they give me most of the time those summaries from Gemini. Um, I
Yep.
did try to use Gemini specifically on some occasions, but mostly to generate images because it's integrated with their image creation. They have
Yes.
Banana.
Banana,
Banana.
but
Yeah.
it's
What a
funny
dumb
because
name. Like, what a dumb name. Let me
I
just say
know,
that.
but it caught. It caught. I mean, I think because it's dumb, people
Yep.
are like to
Yep.
say. And, uh, but if you try to log into Nano Banana, it will give you credits, two credits for like two images or
Mm.
one image. If
Okay.
you try to do it on Gemini, it's like free. I don't know. I don't get it. I don't really get it. But just yesterday, I was using it for a presentation that I was building, and it really frustrated me. And I want to maybe talk a little about the frustration and how much you are actually getting those feelings. Because I asked it to do something, he did it very nicely, and then I told him, this area in the picture, change it, and I gave him very specific instructions how to change it. And he didn't change it. He gave me exactly the same thing. And I told him, "Oh, you didn't change it. It's the same image." And then he'll say, "Oh yeah, I'm so sorry." And let me do it again. And then it was thinking even longer. And then it gave me again the same image. And I'm like, "What is going on? What are you doing over here? Why are you wasting my time?" So it becomes really upsetting.
This
Uh,
this is a big problem in
I don't want
prototyping as
anyone
well.
to see my chats with Gemini when I get frustrated because that would cancel me. No, it's not that bad. But
There's a there's a recent study that getting upset with the AI actually produces better results. So,
I
I'm not
mean,
saying we need to be mean to our bots, but
it's so bad.
Really?
That is so
That's
yeah,
terrible.
interesting.
yeah, that's the true research results right now.
Yeah, the image model, it's something you use for fun. I honestly don't think this is something that is there yet. You can't use it for ad assets or you can tell it's AI. Even if it's great, you can tell it's AI. Some people will not mind. Some people will really, really mind it and hate you for it. So I think it's still too risky to use it for that specific thing. It's just a fun. Even with the name, like Nano Banana, it's supposed to be fun. That's my take on
Mhm.
what Google was trying to achieve.
Mhm.
But yeah, when an LLM gets frustrating, I was never upset at Google the way I was upset with an LLM searching on Google. I never had "Why are you so stupid?" with interaction with
Oh yeah.
Google like I have with an LLM
That's
daily.
absolutely true because I didn't expect it to be silly or to do
Hmm.
things that
No.
I didn't want it to do.
So maybe Google is fine. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe we don't need an LLM to tell us what the world is. Maybe we were doing fine without LLMs.
And ju
I don't know.
And just to hang on that frustration piece, we see a lot of that in vibe coding. I personally do this vibe coding stuff, and you get up to that 80%, and then you tell it to make a change, and it changes something else somewhere else. And you're like, I didn't want that changed. I wanted this other thing changed. But to your point, Sonny, earlier, you're asking it to do a lot
Way
of,
too much.
way too much building. So,
It's way too much. And one thing that I add, every vibe coding tool is a wrapper of a foundational model. As far as I know, they don't train their own models or anything. They
mhm,
use whatever Claude
right.
or ChatGPT or Gemini, whatever it is. Every one of those at the bottom of every conversation says this tool can make things up. There's a
Yeah.
warning. So every vibe coding tool is based on a fact that everything could be made up every time you ask it. And then and it does 100 steps in one go. I, as a prototyping tool, it's amazing. It's fun, whatever you
Yeah.
want to call it. But I want to see a revenue generated,
Right.
revenue generating vibe coded app that's like killing it, that's more profitable than ChatGPT, which is plus anything that's more than zero, I guess.
Well,
I have yet to see one.
yeah, profit-wise, that's a whole other discussions because I've seen and heard also about this. You might have even posted about it, Sani. I don't remember if it was you or someone else on LinkedIn about, how no one actually profits because everyone is on top of others, and those main ones are spending millions and billions of dollars on development without really profiting on anything. So there might be a crash there.
It was somebody else. May have been if it was recent, I don't know. But Juliana wrote about on her Substack called Beyond the Mean, I think, about rapper economy, and to go beyond the foundational models and NVIDIA and all that stuff, there's a whole wrapper economy with people basically reselling tokens in their apps. That's the business model. I'm reselling tokens and making profit until the token cost goes up. And then people think everything's too expensive and stop using it. It's all based on such shaky foundations that if I was building an AI-based product that requires someone else's tokens today, I would be very scared. Because what happens when OpenAI realizes that this is not sustainable? We need to charge more for these tokens because we're
Yeah.
losing a lot of money.
Yeah.
And
That's going back to a very good product management topic,
Mhm.
is how much do you base your product on other products that might not exist in the future or might change their model.
uh,
There is a lot of that with many different areas of product. Part of it is relying on government and regulations, and then the government change the regulation and your product lose ground. But companies also can, go under or change their models, and all of a sudden your model breaks. So it's a very good point there.
I think it's very risky to base your entire company or what startup that you're building on someone else's tokens. And there are thousands, millions of companies being built this way. So I see that that could be potentially very dangerous. But the other side of that, there's also open source LLMs that you can just run yourself and use yourself, even host on Cloudflare if you don't have infrastructure to host it yourself. And I think that's an alternative. That's the bright future of AI. So I don't want to be all dark, but there's a bright future. You can use the same way WordPress 20 years ago took over as an open source solution that anyone could install and host and own their data. You can do the same thing with LLMs. So maybe all of these big models are completely unnecessary when we have something like Qwen or even the Meta's models. They're open source. You can run them, you can host them yourself, and get 95% the same results you get from these super expensive models by these mega multi-billion dollar companies. So maybe that's the future. I think if we're lucky, that's what the future of AI is. We'll see in the next few years how things develop.
Yep. And privacy is a key component to
Privacy,
all that as well.
absolutely, absolutely. Also, you can train your
Non-negotiable.
own models. You can train your own models. My friend Iqbal Ali does a lot of that. He trains LLMs for his company, for other companies. A model that's 1 GB in size that you can have on your computer, running on your computer and prompting it, and it's faster than ChatGPT. So what's the point
That
of
might be
paying?
one of the competitive advantages of that. In
Absolutely,
the
yeah.
future, like training your own models, you have a proprietary data and you don't
Yep.
necessarily want to be sharing that with these other big enterprise companies, like especially OpenAI, which, has had its hiccups along the way. So
It still says open in the name.
yes, exactly. Yeah. It's a irony of it all.
Yes,
But
but who knows? Microsoft used to be very anti-open source, and they
Mhm.
changed over time. One of those could do that as well. You don't know. I mean, that could happen as well if they see that's the future.
mhm.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how a large enterprise would use AI and keep their data private and all that unless they're using an open source model that they're hosting themselves or their own model that they develop themselves. Uh, I would not trust Claude. Anthropic. I would not trust OpenAI. I would not trust Google with any data that I'm sending it because they have a history of
Mhm.
abusing data.
Mm-hmm. Now,
Yeah.
let's go back to the partnership and research. So let's say I'm new in this, I'm a new product manager, and I want to start doing that. Take me through some steps of how I might do that.
So I mean, you have to have an idea. Hopefully, you have an idea for the product for whatever you're trying to develop. Of course, brainstorming using AI to get to that idea, sure, but only as an inspiration. You need to know what you want to build. I would start with that, and then what we talked about earlier. Really, start with a deep research prompt that's going to gather as much information as possible. But then you need to proofread it. You need to check, and really the same way you would do it without AI, broken down into steps. You know the process better than I do. I'm not going to try to pretend that I know what the process is for a PM,
Hmm.
but that same process, but every step of the way, see how AI can make you move faster, be more efficient, or just give better output. So don't try to reinvent the process that's already there. This applies to anything, not just PM. and use AI every step of the way, but independently, not throughout the entire process in one go, as I said earlier.
Yeah. And you guys also mentioned having notes or somewhere where you're adding on or stuff like that. Do you do that within the LLM, or you do that like as a separate tool and then you feed it into the LLM all the time?
What do you mean? Sorry, the notes.
Like if you're adding context, how do you add the context to the LLM?
Right there, it needs to know what the context is. It's
Yep.
not going to work. So when you start a conversation, it's good to give it as if you have like three documents that will give it enough context. Say, hey, I'm trying to work on this project, build this product, whatever you're working on, and these three documents will give you context. This one is for that. You explain what the documents do exactly, and then it's going to be a very different conversation. However, if it's a long chat, like you mentioned, Matt,
Hmm.
it kind of forgets where it started, and
Yeah.
that's always
Yeah.
good because of the context
It,
window. You have to be careful about that and keep reminding it.
mhm.
Or once you see that it's starting to talk something that doesn't really make sense, maybe say,
Yep.
"Give me the summary of everything we talked about," and just move to a new chat with that summary,
Yep. I've
and then
had to
start
do
from.
that. Yeah.
Yeah,
It starts to slip up and float away. So yeah, then
that
another key
happens.
component of all this is when you are as a PM or anybody working in your organization, identify what product you're using internally. So kind of going back to the security and privacy aspect of this, don't just run off with proprietary data of your company and pump it into a model. We use Copilot where I'm at, and Copilot works with OpenAI, GPT-5. Keep in mind that what you're giving is company data. Just be mindful of that. I just want to have that as a caveat.
I mean, would you upload data to Pastebin or something like that where people can access where it might go public? No,
Right.
absolutely
Yeah,
not. So
exactly. Yep.
you never know. There was last week of July this year, there was the big scandal when chats went public.
Hmm.
With ChatGPT right before they launched ChatGPT to kind of cover the news cycle, to bury that.
Hmm.
What if that happens? Would your boss be happy with you if they saw you did something like that? Probably
Yeah.
no.
No, absolutely. So it's a critical thing to keep in mind, but it doesn't mean that there's a lot of other AI assistants out there. Atlassian has stuff, and you can use a main model, but like a key component of all this is working in line with your partner, your AI partner. And so if you're building out backlog, Jira tickets, things like that, they have built-in AI components. I mean, they're using whatever model on their back end that they like, but at the end of the day, like there's a bunch of other places where you're going to wind up using AI beyond just a running prompt list, like you might see in Copilot.
And I had a conversation on my podcast with Olga Andrienko. She was with SEMrush until about a month ago, and talking to me about which models they chose, what they implemented. It's an enterprise, so there was a lot of pushback. And then she figured out, wait, we're completely using Google. Everything we have, the infrastructure is on
Hmm.
Google. Gemini, like let's just get everyone on Gemini, and getting the approval to do something like that from their legal team was just, yeah, we're
Yep.
already giving them all the data. With
Mhm.
ChatGPT, it would have taken God knows how many hoops to jump through to get the approval to use it.
Mhm.
Absolutely. Yeah. If you have a Google Workspace account in your company, it works in line with all the places you're
Yeah.
in. It helps you write email. It helps you write, one pagers on your docs. It'll even help with your slide deck. So if you're building out a presentation slide, you give it some context. This is how I'm going to write some words. I want this layout, and it'll actually recommend ways to improve it. So that's the kind of inline AI assistant that you see a lot in product spaces these days.
Which is why I love Google and Gemini because
Yep.
of the integration with the entire ecosystem they have. I mean, ChatGPT has no ecosystem
Right.
to integrate with. That's their problem. That's why I'm if I was betting, I would bet on Google to overtake OpenAI at some point because of everything else they have. There's talks about ChatGPT and Shopify integrating. Yeah, but what happens when Gemini integrates with Google Merchant Center? And
Right.
you can just shop from Gemini, and every product in existence is going to be there. And Google can even get paid for
Yeah,
every
it's a nice
transaction.
moat to have. And then I think that's why OpenAI is leans into the Microsoft partnership because as we all
Hmm.
know, Microsoft's moat in enterprise companies is
Yep.
so wide. So, hey, you get Copilot just because you have 365. And with OpenAI's investments back and forth between them, I think that gives them a foothold into
Oh,
enterprise
absolutely.
data.
Absolutely. Yep.
But that's also like most enterprises actually still work with Microsoft rather than with Google. And for them, it does make a lot of sense for the same reasoning to use Copilot. And therefore, with Microsoft ownership or part of the ownership of OpenAI, I'm not following the percentages or whatever, then maybe that's what eventually will happen.
I think the partnership is kind of messy
Mm.
and getting messier. So keeping an eye on what happens, but OpenAI needs to start paying Microsoft for some of the infrastructure at some point. Like it gets very ugly in a few years if you're OpenAI,
Mm.
that partnership.
And
So yeah,
Copilot is a separate LLM?
uh, I think again, I'm not on Microsoft at all. I think they're trying to make it a separate thing.
Yeah.
That's from what I've seen.
Mm.
Yeah, I see them trying to break away because as you
Yeah.
work in Copilot, you can try ChatGPT 5. And
Mm.
so, they may be using smaller models or like,
Yeah.
3.5 or 4 or something like that. But like,
Yeah.
yeah, I think in the end, Microsoft leans towards doing its own thing long term, personally.
But it's also like going back to that, which one an enterprise might choose or a company might choose. Copilot, like you say, it's coming with everything Microsoft, and I don't know if it's integrated as well as Gemini is integrated with Google products, but it's the same idea.
Hmm.
It's completely the same idea. Yes. And if an enterprise is asking that question, what should we use? You already know. Like, what are you using for everything else? That's the answer. Because the models in what the foundational models in what they can do and quality of the output, they're very close. They're always going to be very close. Like this is the same technology. So it's more about legal and what you can use safely than about which model you want to use.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And the thing you mentioned, Matt, about the tools inside the other tools, like the AI inside other tools, like inside Jira or inside the
Mhm.
Atlassian products or all of those. This is really the context
Yeah.
we're talking about all the time, rather than just being a context I have to feed it all the time. The context already exists in these tools, and the AI should really go and find the context over there without me having to tell it again and again. Here is the context.
Absolutely. Yeah, it can go and look throughout your Atlassian, Confluence, Product Discovery. It can go through all your Jira and find this context. And then just when it comes down to building tickets, building your backlog, identifying things to work on, that's where assistance comes in and helps you. It makes you that 10x product manager. And then on top of that, you can go focus on strategic value, business value, talking to customers, doing the things that a lot of product managers like to do, but we don't always get time to do because we're, often working on the backlog and stuff like that on execution.
Mhm, mhm.
And that's the way AI, in my opinion, should be and probably will be in 5 or 10 years. It will be invisible. People
Yeah.
will look back at a time when they had to type in chatgpt.com and go there and talk to AI the same way you look at going to a bank to get your salary. It just
Mhm.
makes no sense. It needs to be invisible. It needs to be there for you. It needs to be providing the context on its own without you having to do it every time. And that will happen. We need more companies to integrate the same with the assistants inside the tools and all that.
Mhm.
But the whole concept of having an assistant you have to go talk to and like, I don't get it.
Yeah.
I honestly I don't get why this is such a big thing. Maybe fascination with AI pretending to be human from sci-fi, and like that's how we're trained to think about AI. That it's something that even the movie Her, that was
Yeah.
Sam Altman's dream, building ChatGPT to be exactly like that with the same voice, and then they tried to get Scarlett Johansson to provide the voice. She said no.
Yep.
They generated a similar voice. They found an actress then she sued them. It's a very ugly story that you can read
Yeah,
about.
yeah.
But AI is not supposed to be that. It's not supposed to pretend it's a human. Just the name artificial intelligence kind of makes people think that way, but it should be infrastructure that's present wherever you're doing your work.
Right. Yeah, I think there's a good quote, and I won't quote it, but like technology should be like invisible. That's the best design and best technology is the fact that you don't know you're using it. And I think long term that's where AI will wind up being. But right now everything's very intentional. You have
Yeah.
to go ask it for things. You have to go prompt it. You have to like engage with it. It doesn't, but at some point it's going to just start knowing things about you, and that's where personalization, for better or for worse, comes into it, I think.
So I have a bit of a different perspective on this because humanoids are still, humanoid robots are still
Hmm.
thing that people are developing and people are dreaming about. And I've seen recently that in 2050, I don't remember the exact number, but the market value in the world of humanoids is expected to be double that than cars. So,
Wow.
and it was in the trillions. So the maybe it was double, maybe even more. So I think that in order for a humanoid actually to interact with you, it will have to understand things like the LLMs are understanding. But
Mhm.
the interaction is not going to be by me prompting it, writing it to it, but by me talking to it.
Yeah.
And then it will have to, you know, telling it me back and not give me pages and pages of responses so that I have to read, right? So the interface is different. And to me, the next thought is that the way ChatGPT and all of those LLMs came out with this user experience of prompt and response, prompt and response, prompt and response, it's a very lazy user experience that unfortunately people that don't understand user experience adopted it for everything else,
Mhm.
or people that do understand user experience, and I'm talking about designers, adopted it because everyone else now is using that. So let's just use
Yeah.
that as well.
Yeah.
But it's not the right user experience for most tasks that we're doing, and that's where the AI needs to be. That's where I'm getting to what you just said. AI needs to be invisible, but the invisibility is about layering. Where does it do the work, and how do I get to that? And there is still always a user interface. And the
Right.
user interface, whether it's going to be with a humanoid that I'm talking with, I will know
Mm.
it's technology unless it will be so good it will look like human beings. But but in the beginning, I think the humanoids are going to look like humanoids or they're going to look like machines. So I will know that I'm using technology, but the user interface over there is going to be much more human
Mhm.
than writing a prompt and getting responses that I have to read through.
Right.
That's very possible. One con to that I would add is human body is efficient if you're trying to do everything that humans do. No one's going to build a machine that's trying to do every single thing that humans do, unless it's trying to replace humans, and that's a dark future that I don't even want to talk
The
about.
AI will
So
do
let
that.
well, sure, and it will build create AGI, and God knows what else. But let's say you have this cooking robot that I saw on YouTube that really has all the ingredients and like can cook 20,000 recipes and whatnot. It has two arms. It has two arms to cook. It's not a humanoid that's pretending to be a chef because that
Mhm.
would be inefficient usage of all the materials used to build the body. You only need the arms if you're going to cook. I'm saying that whatever robot you have that's using AI, you don't need the entire human body for it. So the humanoid path, I think, is wrong for efficiency purposes and nothing else.
Well, it depends for
There's
on the task, of
Yeah,
course.
yeah, of course, absolutely.
yeah, and
Mhm.
there's video out there with the Optimus, Tesla humanoid. So, but it folds laundry. So I think that, but it'll go fold laundry for you. But the thing is that it has to be told that. And so whether you're telling a prompt to do something or whether you're telling the humanoid to fold laundry,
Yeah,
this is how I want my laundry folded. You're still being explicit. You're telling
yeah.
it to do something. AI does not know how to do things necessarily without you telling it to do things. So until we get to AGI and self-replication of AI, where it says, I already know how to do all this. I don't need Sani, to your point, I don't need humans to tell me to do things
Yeah.
anymore. I still think whether it's a humanoid or whether it's a prompt inside an application, you still have to tell it to do something for you.
I, well, hopefully forever because
Yeah,
it's very
for
dark
sure.
if
For
if we
sure.
cross that line. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I can tell you that in my age, I kind of happy that I might not see, that future.
Yeah. 100% yes.
You know how sometimes we are like, oh, it's good we're living in this age and not like 100 or 1,000 years ago because of all the technology and all the things that we're having. And sometimes I'm starting to think that it's also good that I'm not going to be in 100 years from now or 1,000 years because
You might have one
I'm not
taking
sure I
care of
want to
you.
see that future.
Yeah, you might have one taking care of you down the road as some nurse or something like that. But yeah, the barrier for entry as well is going to be an obstacle, for a lot of people. The be able to purchase power of like, hey, can I actually buy a humanoid that has all this AI? So I still think it's a long, ambitious path, but there's interesting work out there.
Absolutely.
Yeah, amazing. This was an amazing discussion. You actually have a group that you started that Matt mentioned it in the beginning. Can you tell us a bit about that
Yeah,
and
so
how
this is
people?
something that
Mhm.
I started with my friend Bjarne Brunenberg, who also lives here in Porto. A few months ago, I spent most of this year talking to people from growth, experimentation, and product about how they feel about AI. This is why I kind of pivoted No Hacks podcast to talk about the future of work because of AI forcing changes. I talked to a lot of people about how they feel about where they stand with AI adoption, why they're behind, do they feel they're behind, and almost everyone felt that they're behind, that everyone else is running while they're still crawling. And most of those people felt bad about not doing more and had no idea where to start. So we just started a cohort with, I think the first one was with 8 people. 2 weeks, total of 4 hours online. We're building a workflow together using AI that they can use at work. So we had people from huge companies joining in and like really high level executives in the field of experimentation and growth. And we help them build whatever it is that they need to build that they can use at work. And the aha that you get from the people who feel like there's never going to be a moment where they understand what this is and how to use it, and then 2 days later, wow, it works. Like I built
Mhm.
something and I can like I need to finish it and then I can use it at work, and they keep using it later is really what makes me optimistic about AI, because the more people understand AI and the concepts of AI and AI agents specifically, which is like the big buzzword, it's just
Mhm.
an LLM with access to tools. And some
Yeah.
memory. It's nothing fancy.
Mhm.
It's not going to save the world or destroy the world. The excitement you get from the people when they figure out that this is something I can do, even though I thought a week ago that it's never going to happen. We kept going with the cohorts, and now we're launching a paid community in a few weeks. It's at AIFluencyClub.com, so there's going to be a monthly membership. Not expensive for sure, at least to launch with. So if anyone's interested in that, you can either reach out to me directly or just go and sign up for the waitlist.
So it's AIFluencyClub.com.
Club.com. Yep.
Okay, amazing.
That's great. Yeah, I think the access to AI is everywhere. You have it on your phone, your desktop, and I think as people get used to it, and you don't have to use it on your daily everyday basis, but like as people get to use it and see where it can deliver value, the barrier for entry is very low. And I think once people get past that, like, hey, how do I get started with it? I think that's like the aha, like you mentioned, Sonny.
Also, for most people, once you leave the chatbot, whatever your chatbot is, and start using AI in different ways, just building
Yeah,
something with AI, that is going to be the biggest transformational thing for you in how you use AI.
right. Yep. Real life
Absolutely.
applications.
And most people don't, I mean, a lot of people don't know yet how to use the LLMs. And definitely most people don't know, what AI is once you do that, once you leave the LLMs.
Very true. Yep.
Yeah,
Right.
absolutely. Amazing. Matt, do you have any other questions?
Honestly, we probably could go on for a while. I think, obviously this is an area that I'm extremely passionate about, really interested in. I think it's going to have a positive impact on product management. So maybe we'll learn along the way in our series on AI and PMs and LLMs. And thank you, Sonny, for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much, Sunny. Where can people reach out to you?
LinkedIn, my name is unique enough that there's only one uncle of mine with the same name on LinkedIn, and you're gonna find me before you find him.
Okay.
So there, and nohackspod.com. That's the podcast. If you want to check out the podcast, it's really since earlier this year, it's about how AI is changing work in different digital industries like SEO, CRO, creative industries, all that stuff, and what people should do to adapt and not get lost along the way.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much again, Sonny. Thank you,
Thank
Moshe. Thank you to all the listeners. And we'll talk to everybody next time. Take care.
Thank you very much.
Thank you to all the listeners. We really appreciate the feedback and support. Please leave us a review to help others find the show on Apple or Spotify or anywhere else you're listening to the show.